My wife and I went to several furniture stores looking for a bed for our 3-year-old daughter. Nothing was really grabbing our attention, so I decided this would be a good project. My woodworking style is build and adapt. I currently don't use any SketchUp tools. I generally create an outline of the project and some simple ideas or key features and just build around that idea. Right now I'm ripping some cherry and maple down to approximate sizes. I don't own a long bed jointer yet, so I previously took these to a local lumber yard. These cuts were originally from a large slab. The majority of this build was designed around using leftover cuts. The cuts here will be the side rails, the legs, as well as the slats for the head and toe boards. I use a rigid 13 amp 10-inch table saw. It offers a 30-inch rip capacity, which is fine for long cuts with some extra supports. The 4-inch dust collection port leaves a little to be desired, but can be modified to work with most collection systems. I would have no problems recommending the R4520 to anyone looking for a mid-range table saw this size. It's time to get all of the board thickness dialed in. I use a Makita 2012 NB. It features a 15 amp motor and is one of the quietest in its class. The cutting depth settings are simple and accurate for repeat cuts. I would recommend getting the optional dust collection hood. It adapts easily to collection systems and does a pretty good job. I am still using a dust deputy and a shop vac. It can keep up in most cases, but a large system would be ideal here. These are my side rails. I would have ideally used a single piece here, but these were available and in the size I needed. Just a simple type-on glue up. I started sanding the rails along with the head and toe board legs with a 6-inch Bosch sander, but the size of this sander seems to be better suited for larger tops like tables. I switched over to a handheld 5-inch DeWalt, and that was much quicker on these small pieces. I have taped the other sides of these boards in preparation to fill the knot holes. I'm using System 3 resin and hardener. I give them a quick hit of the mat torch to clear any surface air pockets. It looks like I'm filming inside the sun here. That's my Lutech 6290 XL. If you need a bright shop light at 7,000 lumens, it's a great option. A simple roundover looks good on a design like this. It really cleans things up and gives a finished look. I am sanding up to 220 on the head and footboard slats. These will be difficult to sand after assembly, so I need to have these nearly finish ready before they are assembled. I was unsure how I wanted to fasten the head and toe board slats. I went with pocket holes for simplicity. I used the smaller R3 jig. I'm now just trying to find a piece of scrap that'll work as a good spacer, something for a good fit between the slats. This ended up being quite the process. I wanted to secure the slats against the center of the leg posts. I had to put together a few spacer blocks for the right alignment to secure them with the Craig clamp. Here I am in my marshmallow suit again. These come in handy when you want to get some work done quickly, but you want to keep your clothes clean for when you get home. I ran out of cherry rough cuts, so I made a trip to the lumberyard to pick up a piece of cherry for the tops of the head and toe boards. After ripping the boards to width and length, I added a beveled edge. The tops were secured in the same way as the center slats. Pocket hole screws and tight bond. The toe board assembly was identical to the headboard. It went a lot quicker as I didn't have to figure out the assembly jig. I'm taping the glue seam on the rails before I apply a mixture of sanding dust and wood glue. This is just an extra step that can give you a perfectly seamless glue line. The tape just makes cleanup and sanding easier. You can simply scrape away the excess glue before it's completely hardened. I'm sanding the epoxy fill I did on the rail, as well as the newly filled glue line up to 220. These rails are nearly ready for finish once their final length is cut. This maple will serve as the bed frame slats. I chose these for two reasons. One, I had these available as excess from a large slab, and two, because I thought they would give the frame a nice contrast between the cherry. I chose to fill the pocket holes in two ways. I used the pocket hole plugs for the majority of the non-visible pocket holes. I then used the cherry dowel for the more visible locations, cutting them with my Japanese pole saw. I sanded the plugs flush after the glue had a chance to cure. My first finishing step is a product from General Finishes, Seal-A-Cell. It's used to prevent some of the blotching on difficult woods such as cherry. The process is simple. It requires a brushed or wiped on coat and wipe off the excess. I am using another General Finishes product called Armor Seal Oil and Urethane Top Coat in satin. This product is formulated to be applied with a foam brush or cloth. I've always had the best results using blue shop rags. They leave nothing behind and the flow is much easier to control than a brush. I sanded and wiped everything down between coats with Odie's Safer Solvent. It's a food-grade citrus solvent that's meant to be a replacement for mineral spirits or other solvents. In total, I applied 4 coats, 1 Seal-A-Cell and 3 urethane top coats front and back. Loosely installing the bed frame hardware seemed like the best option at this point. Leave a little bit of slack so I can align everything during assembly. I used Sunvor bed rail brackets. They were the right size for the rails and offer a simple and secure installation. I needed a way to hold the maple slats for the mattress supports. I cut the length to fit inside the rails before finishing. The supports and slats were finished with General Finishes Seal-A-Cell and urethane top coat. At this point, I'm tired of finishing and ready to get going with assembly. The rail received Titebond glue and pilot holes. It was then anchored into the rails. I had a couple movement issues, so I applied some clamps partway through. The head and toe boards were finished and ready for final hardware installation. One note here is the bolts for tightening the frame need space under the bracket. Mark the bolt holes and drill some extra space for the bolts. This is a simple jig for the maple frame slats. I didn't need anything with precision, just something so the pilot holes were accurate. Felt was applied to the feet on the head and toe boards. I did this to protect the flooring and make movement easier. I used a washer with 2 of the holes to allow for a simple alignment before fastening them to their final locations here. We finally have an assembled bed frame. Now I'm figuring out the spacing for the slats. I was contemplating between a fabric attachment that would allow the slats to roll up for transport, or a solid design with 2 strips of wood. I went with option 2 as it still transports easily, being a smaller bed frame. I drilled pilot holes, glued and screwed each of the slats into the supports.
Watch out for the knot. Watch out. Watch out, you're gonna get it. It's gonna be like that. And what are we supposed to do with this?
That's my wife questioning if she'll actually sleep in this bed or continue to sleep in ours.
It's gonna be cool bed. Let's get out. My turn. My turn. It's okay, Milo. I don't want to help because I have to put hide and seek, okay? I want to put them down. It's good.